I hope you've been enjoying the Fearless Entrepreneur Summit. You've been picking up a lot of great tips and tricks to use. Setting your intention seems to be the kind of the word of the day today. Yesterday's word of the day was it was decision, and today's word of the day seems to be intention. That's what I'm getting out here today. And I'm super excited to introduce our next guest, Marilen Crump, and she's going to be talking about how to move from indecision to completion. So again, this, I'm sure that the intention is going to come up here. Marilen, just make intention come up just because I said that, okay, at some point. We're going to be bringing Marilen Crump onto the stage. I met Marilen, I believe that was through the One Habit book series of books as well, right? Is that how I met you, Marilen?
No, I was stalking you online because you were going live everywhere.
Okay, she is one of my stalkers.
I was like, who is this lady? She's going live everywhere. And then you went live on LinkedIn, and I said, well, I got to know what she's doing, because the way you were saying things, and this is part of what I'm going to talk about, is you would go live and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Hey guys, I'm on live and I'm not really sure what's going on here. If you're listening, check it out, and then make a comment. I said, wow, this lady's brave. Maybe I overthink things, and the way she's just showing up right now, she's in my feed. Let's figure it out with her. So that you gave an invitation just by being there. And that's really how I connected with you. And then you had mentioned about the book. So that's when I jumped in. So I'm a jump in person for sure. But I wasn't always a completion person. So this is going to be a very fun talk.
Oh, I love this because I spent many years being a starter, not a finisher. And just like last year, my word of the year was finisher. And so I would start things and I wouldn't go to the next thing until I finished it. And that really changed my life. So I love how you're going to be talking about that today. Talking about, from indecision, because often it's like we're waffling back and forth, we're on that fine line, we're not really sure what to do, and then to completion. So how do we make that jump from the indecision to make the decision and then to go ahead and go to completion? But I'm excited to introduce Marilen Crump. She's a business coach. She's been running her business for many years. I don't even remember how many years it is, but it's many. She'll tell you that in just a minute. But 22, was that 22?
22
years. 22 years. So she has broken the barrier, right, of that, 1 year, a lot of people drop out. By 5 years, most businesses are not even going forward. So she's 22 years, has a lot of great knowledge and skills to share with us today. Marilen, take it away. You're going to be talking about how to move from indecision to completion.
Thank you so much, Linda. Yes, thank you. And I really appreciate those who made a decision to be here and also to watch the replay. It's always exciting to impart knowledge, because I always said to myself when I was struggling through things, if I ever get past this stuff, I want to be able to help the next person. So it's a pay it forward thing for me today. And so hopefully I can give you a lot of things. I always suggest a notepad, paper, notebook, whatever you got, because I love to drop as many nuggets. Yeah, Linda has hers. As possible. And I'll just go ahead and just start, because we mentioned that 22 years being in business. 22 years ago, I was a senior in college, Sweetbriar College, an all-women's college. And going into that experience, I came from a people-pleasing type of situation, being the oldest, and my family was really depending on me, being the first to go to college, all that stuff. You had this pressure. And so you had to pretty much do things that were expected when you're young, or at least for me, it was that. And I had a time in that experience where I was really questioning, is what I'm doing for me? And is this authentic to my goals, my dreams? I declared a science major, really wasn't working out that way. I was barely paying attention, but I was doing a lot of other things like musical theater. I was also into programming. I knew HTML coding. This was back, pre-2000. And then I decided that, it's time for me to start making my own decisions. And when I made the decision to switch majors, I had 3 semesters left. And so pretty much 21 plus hours of the last 3 semesters, I self-designed a major in interdisciplinary arts with a minor in psychology. And what that did for me was I questioned everything else that I was going to do into the future. I decided I don't want a boss. I want to work for myself. and I started my company, ARTINSPIRED, senior year of college. So this is, I graduated in 2000 and really went the freelance route. So there was a lot of different things that I've done. I've done musical theater, I've been in film. I've also done a lot of like instruction, starting with ballroom dance instruction. But then I was on the side doing web programming, etc. So I love to attempt different things. So that's the jumping in type of thing. But when you have a lot of interest and you have a lot of skills, and some of you probably do, I noticed that there's people who are speakers, writers, coaches, doing all this stuff. What tends to happen is you don't know what to prioritize because they're all your passions. So for me, it doesn't start with the why, because that part's actually easy. And for some of you, you could probably state your why pretty quickly, and that's not what's holding you up. What tends to hold a lot of people up is that priority thing that we just mentioned. And in other times, I think as things go, because you're good at it, you probably say yes to a lot of things and forget to filter like how you're actually going to do it. So today I want to make sure that we definitely come back to the basics, come back to a foundational level of understanding of, first of all, what it takes to make that decision in the first place, but then moving through it is going to be really cool. Now, my thing is, I have a nickname that somebody else kind of gave to me and I started using it as branding, but I use the hashtag expert Dreamcatcher. It means a couple of things. One, I do love to encourage people to achieve the things that they're looking to do. And I love being a cheerleader and a supporter. But I also came up with a structure because as a programmer, you have to figure out what it is that you're coding in order to complete a site, right? So way back when, it's a bunch of like ones and zeros and dots and all this stuff. So you really had to think in a different way than most people, because from start to finish, you were coding things that people couldn't see right away. You just saw, it's like the Matrix. You would see like codes coming down. So I would have to really just stick with the process until I got it done. And for the goal process, I thought to myself, like, there must be a way to complete things from start to finish that's always tried and true. So DREAM is actually an acronym, and it stands for D, direction. So you have to know where to go. And this is where a lot of people start and have fun with it, like vision boards. So here's my latest vision board. When you're trying to decide on a direction, vision boards come in handy at D. But what I find with people who create vision boards is they don't know the next steps. And so I'm going to give you the next steps with the word dream. So after the vision board comes R, relinquish. That's when you really have to do the work. And a lot of times this gets glossed over because relinquishing means that you have to rearrange and say no to things. Also, like you got to let go of it. So you got to let go of maybe time. Maybe it's a resource that you're letting go of. Maybe you've been like hoarding this thing over here, but you really need to go out and spend it because it's part of you being able to access an opportunity, like maybe in the mastermind of saying yes, right? So you have to consider these things during R, because if you don't take that moment, then everything else foundationally doesn't work because you're carrying too much baggage or you don't have enough of the right tools. So DR, very important. But R, I would say, if you don't spend enough time there, just reevaluate later. If it's something not going right, you probably say, I probably didn't spend enough time on relinquish. Now, let me just stay there for a minute since I'm saying it's important. When you are talking about things to relinquish, fear is definitely huge. So we are here for Fearless Summit, right? So we got to get rid of the fear. What I find people do who are actually pretty confident people is that they disguise a lot of the issues through that confidence. So it's kind of like, I'm confident I'm going to change my mind, confident I'm going to change my branding. But then when I dig in the process of what I do with my clients, I find that, oh, there is that fear still. There is that fear that if I get too far in this planning and get too far in this process, that if it doesn't work, then I've spent all this time, I've spent all this money and resources. And then I'm back to square one again. And I'll mention how you can alleviate that. But first of all, just make sure that when you're going through that R phase, take that fear out of the equation, because there may be something of value that you're building on that you might surprise yourself later about. But hold that thought, put that to the side for a second. So what's the next letter? E. E is efficiency. And if you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books, and I've actually led a study group about this because it's just so important to remember that there's all of this stuff that's already been laid out before you from other people who've achieved things. And one of the thickest chapters, and actually the thickest chapter in Think and Grow Rich, is organized planning. If you look at all the other chapters are kind of skinny, you get to organized planning, it's like this thick. And so I'm like, wow, that means something. So technically the title of that book should have been Think, Organize, Plan, Grow Rich, but they don't have enough space in the front, right? So they're going to have to condense it. Think and Grow Rich, but then people miss the whole in between. And this is what really gets back to the in between. Efficiency. When you're efficient in your actions, then you can do more. But then also you're not wasting time, and time to me is more valuable than money. I can always make more money, but I can't make more time. Time is time is time. And that's the same for me, same for you. So no one has any advantage there. So you really got to make sure you're using it as wisely as possible. And when you do that, when you have the organized plan and you're very efficient, then when you take action, then it's not laborious. It's also like you have this new confidence that comes into play. And for the most part, you can actually rely more on that inspiration and the intuition and things like that, because you're not second guessing, because you know you already did the groundwork, right? So sometimes we say yes, we go right to action. We didn't do the groundwork, and there's that feeling, right, that the bottom's going to drop out at any moment, and that fear stays with you because you didn't do anything to really kind of set yourself up for that solid action. And when I take action, I like to dedicate my action. I like to compartmentalize my action. I also like to pre-write down what I'm going to do as an action plan. And before I would go back and forth, and some of you may have done this in your lives too, where you're like, I love to-do lists. I hate to-do lists. I believe in to-do lists. No, to-do lists don't work, right? So you're kind of in this cycle, like, what do I write down and what do I do? Well, I find that I got to get it out of my head. It's always been therapeutic that way. And just sometimes, like, you know what Whitney and Linda was talking about earlier was you can always say no to that. And especially if it's just writing things down, it doesn't cost me any money. I can write it down. And sometimes in the middle of writing it down, you're already like, no, I don't even like that I'm writing this down. So you can determine like how you're feeling. So in that action, it is inspired because you are connecting to what it is internally. And so that's really when the why comes back to visit you again. It was when you're taking those actions. But if you've done the pre-work, done the foundational stuff, you're writing things down, you're seeing it, taking assessment, that's a beautiful thing. One thing I mentioned earlier was that I worked in the film industry, and a lot of the things that I've gotten exposure to in that industry actually helps me in business. And it's, to me, like the advantage that I find that, I've used for so many things and so many clients. It's a production schedule, because if you think about how that industry works, there's so many moving parts, right? There's so many teams, so many people, call times. There's the objective of getting it done. And normally you want to get it done under budget and on time. But you can't do that if there's a lot of things missing. And you have to make sure that you know where you're going, like what you've tried to pre-schedule. But here's how production works. We're going to say, here's what we're looking to do today. Here's the call times. Here are our players, right? So same thing in your life. You have people that you meet with, people who work with you. Maybe you have VAs, assistants, and things like that. We're all laying out a ground plan for today. Now, things could go right and things can go wrong. But what needs to happen at the end of the day, the production team has to come back together and say, okay, what was done, what wasn't done, and then relay out a new plan, a fresh new plan for the next day. So you have your initial plan that happens. You you cut it into phases. So there's pre-production, production, post-production. So some of y'all can think about that. If you have a launch, pre-launch, launch, post-launch, right? And things will happen. Do you ever go through a day in production where everything actually happened? No. Like I've never seen it happen. And I am not a big believer in perfectionism. So, and I believe that perfectionism is a trap. It's actually a progress killer. So get it out of your system. Like don't even try to be perfect, because there's no such thing. You're going to be maneuvering the things that you need to do to keep the wheel moving, but then you got to be smart enough to assess every day. So what is great, if you were able to start your day with an overview of what happened the day before, just look at how maybe things went, what was missed, what can be done differently today, take that into assessment, rework the schedule as you need to, and then go with that and just go with it, right? So that's in that action. That's what happens to me in the day-to-day basis. Now, I'll tell you what's going on right now in my life. I have 5 kids. One just got confirmed with COVID yesterday. So now everybody's home and I have to quarantine everybody and feed people. Okay. 2 people are teenagers. So think about that. And so all the rearranging I had to do, and had to figure things out, like what's priority. Well, it's definitely priority to be here today. So me and my husband got everything done before I had to come here, but that's what it takes. Like you can't let things rattle you, but then you also have to say, I also got to give in, right? For certain things, I have to make sure that it's taken care of or moved different way, etc. I'm in my production schedule, and it doesn't daunt me too much. And people like to say, Marilyn, every time I see you're either laughing about something or smiling, it's because it's fun. Like I don't see these obstacles anymore. I'm in a good place. So yes to self-development, but if it weren't for all these practices, then I would definitely feel very daunted, right? So I'm going to just tell you, it feels so good to have this kind of process in your life so that you can handle things that just come up. And then, so we went through DREA. The last letter is M, momentum. So what's great about momentum is that moment where you're kind of looking back and say, oh my gosh, I actually did complete the things. I'm looking back and I see where I'm coming out of, but then also you can replicate and do it again and teach others. So you've reached a momentum point with the process if you can actually do it again, teach someone else, etc. But that's not all the things for completion. That's my framework, right? So DREAM is the framework. On the completion side of things, yes, we talked about some processes, but I want to also mention some tools. Other than just a visual tool, I also like making sure that I can map out a process for my team. So it's one thing for you to know the process and you to keep it all in here. But if you want to really get things done and accomplished, you're probably going to have to start looking at your life as a team leader, okay? Because there's a lot of solopreneurs that I tend to be around, and everybody's handling everything. But guess what? There's so many things that keep popping up. Technology keeps changing. Trends keep shifting. You're trying to keep up with people's expectations on marketing and culture, that I think it's time for us to not always be like this solopreneur, right? You do bear a lot of the responsibilities if you are your own brand, but I want you to start thinking about how you can delegate. Because when I have conversations with people, they say the biggest thing that's stopping them from delegation is thinking that they're going to spend a lot of time explaining to that assistant what they need to do and having to even micromanage the situation. And if you are in the practice now of putting your thoughts and your processes in some kind of system where people can really see it and follow it, then you're a little bit more ahead of the game. So one of the things that I want to mention is that I'm always like hunting for tools. So if you ever want to like DM me because you're like, hey, I have an idea. Is there a tool or a process for this? I don't mind. So find me on, social media and just hunt me down and say, Marilyn, you said this at one summit you were in. I'm totally cool with it. All right. So let me give you this tip because they try to get you with the paid plan. If you want to use a tool like Basecamp and you want to use the free personal, which has a lot of bells and whistles, you don't technically have to pay for it. Now, I'm not going to stop you if you want to pay for stuff, but I know that some people are just starting out or again, very on a tight budget. I always want to make sure that y'all get the heads up. When you go to Basecamp, make sure you go to the pricing part, scroll a little bit where you don't see a yellow button, and you're going to try personal. So it's free, but it says free but limited. Personal, free but limited. Click that, and you can use the personal Basecamp for free. You can add people to that team, okay, and start delegating some stuff there. Check that out. For databases, if you use Notion, you can, as a personal user, you can do the unlimited plan for only $5 a month. Okay, so use that as your database to maybe put different things in play. Like if you have, even if you're scripting out a launch, maybe you're putting different things in there that needs to get done. It's a little bit more robust as far as databases go than Basecamp. Basecamp is more of a communications thing. So as a leader, as a team leader, project manager, right? We're going to decide that we can do more of that this year. We want to make sure that we use technology to our advantage and get those processes out even before you have that physical assistant so that you're already well versed in putting things in there. Okay. Because it's not normally the assistant's fault or somebody you're looking to use. You tend to get behind on putting things in front of them. And then you're wanting somebody very intuitive to you. But guess what? That will develop after maybe weeks, maybe even after months. So you already have to start the process. And if you're not in that process of taking it out of your own head and putting it where someone else can access it, then I'm going to put the burden on you to make sure that that gets done before you have an assistant. So you have to make some shifts, but in a way, it's not that hard because you're already doing these things and it just would take just a slight amount of, attention, but it's not going to take up more time than it needs to. Because these tools are super slick, especially the Basecamp one. With Notion, you'd have to kind of design it. So just FYI on that. Okay, so now when it comes to like my own like goals this year, I actually, and Linda was talking about words that we are floating around today. My word is actually attainment. And I've had other awesome words like conquer and these things that I had to have before because it was like the emotional part. But attainment for me, and I'll tell you my wild big dream. What do they say? The dream that kind of scares you. I want an alpaca farm. So anybody alpaca experts, let me know. I want an alpaca farm because our needs as family has shifted. My twins, so I have 5 kids, and my youngest 2 are twins, identical boys. They are autistic. And so that was a little bit hard for us to kind of get around to that because we were told when they were first just, we were first seeing these delays. They're like, oh, they're twins or because they were preemies. People were telling us that it wasn't that. And so when we finally realized it was that and we're, working through it, we decided that we need to do other things in our personal lives. And one thing about alpacas is they're super cute. They don't have hooves. They have only toenails. They don't have top teeth, so they can't really bite you. They have bottom teeth and they're funny looking. They're super soft and they sound like this. Okay, so they're super cute. But I've never owned a farm before. And some of the things that we've been looking at is definitely like pricey because you need a lot of land. But what does that mean to me? Okay, so here I am and I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm going to need to connect the dots, making the decision, moving to completion. How does that work? I don't know anything about that. Normally, I can tell you how everything works. I can blah, 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 talk you through it. I'm now going to have to put myself in that process. And part of that is daunting, but part of that is also very exciting. So what do you do when you first go through something you don't know? You find other people who know what you know. Okay. So make sure you get either a mastermind or a mentor, or you do a lot of research, but we've been like traveling to different alpaca farms. So if it's success you want, if it's a book you want to write, if it's something that you want to complete, like a course, do you have people on hand that can walk you through? And I really want to always thank Linda. I'll thank Linda for the rest of my life, because sometimes I'll get stuck in my own head. And there are people that I know I could reach out to. There was one moment where I said, I don't know what to do here. Let me just see if this Linda lady will say yes to me. So I said, help me. Do you have time to talk to me? She didn't know what I was going to talk about, but she said yes to me. And in her saying yes, that first, just even the yes part really just opened me up. Like I already felt better right away. So you just never know. If you say yes to somebody, you don't even know what's coming up. Maybe in that moment, you've given them like a lifeline. So I just want to say thank you to Linda, because in that moment, she did say yes. And when we did talk, she was like a great listener. She asked me some key questions, let me come up with my own decision. But, she was able to be there for me. So who's on your team? Who do you have that, and it could be a stranger. It could be even that somebody on the summit. Maybe you're hearing somebody say something. You're like, what if I contact them? Linda always tells us, just do it anyway. Just try. What's the worst that can happen? They can ignore your email or say no, right? And I have learned through a lot of those processes, thinking of, well, what would happen? What would happen if this happened like that? And so the mind maps have been super fun because I can chart out the possibilities, right? You can either draw it on a piece of paper, or you can use MindMeister. MindMeister is great. You can get up to 3 mind maps for free on there. And I'm always doing mind maps. And hint for some of you all process driven, I'm just gonna put it in the comment. Process driven ladies, is that you can actually sell mind maps too, by the way. Okay, so maybe you thought of a mind map for publishing something, sell that mind map or create a freebie out of that mind map. All right, just go there and check it out. Little learning curve, but you'll figure it out. If you ever come to one of my workshops, I'm normally using it so you can see how I work it. So put it together, because you aren't going to, so some of the things that could happen, right? Like, no one's gonna like start a riot. No one's gonna push you off a cliff. Like all these things that, are kind of like, oh my gosh, like, will this happen? Because sometimes like, I don't like conflict, right? And some of the things that I have a time in deciding whether to say yes or no to is because I don't want that conflict. There's still that internal people pleaser person. And, also, there's different traumas that we're not always aware of until it like pops up again. And you might be like me, where you've gone through like a really rocky relationship. And then sometimes it's like your concept of people again gets like moved around. So you got to go through that list. Okay, will that person shove me off a cliff? Nope. Okay. Will that person put a billboard up with my face on it saying they hate me? No. Okay. So, I mean, like all these things. And then once you start really seeing how ridiculous that is, your brain calms down, your body calms down, and you go back to possibilities. So then you say, well, what if the possibility was this and that? That really helps on the mental side of things. So when I'm mapping out a process, when I'm going from, I'm going to create a course today and I want to complete it by maybe 3 days. Is that possible? I'll say to myself, well, it'll only be possible if I do my DREAM. What's the biggest shift that I need to make in the next 3 days in order to make that a priority? And then mapping it out gives me the framework before I attempt to do it. And you might surprise yourself. You might actually do something in that shorter period of time, because you might find that a new muscle gets built. So sometimes if I don't even get close to completion, I find that that's still okay, because then I take that assessment and I say, what did I learn? What was a new thing that I discovered? Sometimes I'll get stuck on something, and that's when I'll discover a new tool. And that's when you'll normally like hear me on a, live, or I'll come onto a workshop. Like, guess what I just figured out? Like, I'm just excited. So that kind of stuff helps me. I actually like messing up now. I actually like not completing things, because then I get to be realistic about some of the time stuff that I set. Okay, maybe 3 days is too much for a course. 3 weeks might be better. Okay, that's fine. And it's funny because it becomes what you do everywhere else. So just like how I sound right now, I'm hearing my little kids walk around and they'll go, okay, that didn't work. And I go, oh, you're following what I'm doing. And so you rub off on people. And one thing that I want to make sure that does rub off is enthusiasm, right? So enthusiasm, if it's missing, it's just another one of those things that if it's drudgery and you really aren't in love with whatever it is that you're trying to complete, then I use that as that like test, right? So I can really kind of say, okay, that's, it was good. I figured some stuff out, but I'm not in love with it. And I'm going to allow myself to change my mind. And that's okay. But sometimes if that's always the case, which, looking back, maybe that was the excuse, honesty then has to be the next word. So am I being honest about that? Is it that I have to keep changing that, or is it that fear coming about again? So then, there's a lot of these things that we're always having to juggle. And one of the biggest tools is journaling, because if I can just hear myself, play it back, reread it, it's very eye-opening, because we think we expressed something, or we think we completed something, or we think we did something. But when the truth and honesty is really just in front of our face, then that tells it all. Like, and that kind of starts kind of just like arranging it itself. So I'm a big believer, yes, in vision boards, but the magic sauce to a lot of it is going to be the honesty, is going to be the enthusiasm. And when you have those things, I feel like then you do attract certain types of abundance, and the processes come together. Then there's less interruptions that tend to happen. And then it's like, before you know it, oh my gosh, that did come true. That's wild, right? I can't tell you why some things get completed and why some don't. So if you were looking for that today, I technically can't tell you because some of it was out of my control. Some things actually just completed itself without even me having to try too hard. Some other things I might have dedicated so much time, so much effort, and it still never got done. So at the end of the day, I just have to say, like, what did I deposit into my life? And now I'm on this thing with a lot of the plans that I'm making, not just for myself, but for other people, is what's going to be permanent. Because sometimes we do things and yes, we complete it, but it actually didn't settle well as something we can use for the long term. So if you're a brand, what is that one thing that you really should be getting done, and put that out there as much as possible. And then everything else could be an accessory to it, but just get that one thing that's going to feel so good. And then if you're looking at the course of a year and you're breaking things down, first break it down quarterly. That's going to be amazing. If you got 4 solid things completed for your brand, 4 solid things that you're known for, that's a lot. That is really healthy to have. And then I think sometimes we start looking at, okay, I'm going to do all this stuff. But remember, if you even break it down by months, that's 12. If you break it down by weeks, it's 52. So technically, if you want to really look at the way you can accomplish things for the year, if you looked at it weekly, and y'all could feel this, right? The week starts and then you're like, blink, oh my gosh, the week's done. What just happened? Where did the week go? Okay, so 50, you only get 52 of those each year. And that's crazy, right? So one of the things that I've done, it's fascinating. If you take a piece of paper, fold it, 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 fold it. If they're all kind of even, I don't know how I did it, but I have a YouTube on it. But there's like slips of paper and it actually equals 52 and 12. They're all the same size. And so I put the 12 on one stack and put 52 in the other stack. Okay. Then I go through and kind of whittle things out. Okay. So the 12 is just for fun themes or something, but the 52, okay, you got to take out a week for maybe you're busy, vacation, another week for, the kids, back to school week. This is going to be spring break week, holiday week, birthday week. Okay. What are you left with? Okay. Then what you're left with. All right. Then maybe you can divide some of that into like, I want to get these 4 things accomplished this year. Divide that out. Then you have 4 stacks. Then see how many weeks are left in there. It's very fascinating to see it that way because we don't quantify time half of the time. So when we're not quantifying it, we don't sense it. We don't sense when it's going, when it's moving too fast, all this stuff. And then we look back and go, oh my gosh, it's 3 months later. I said I was going to get this thing done. I talked about it before and I still didn't get it done. Pinning it down, making sure that I compartmentalize when that's going to happen. So my journal, not journal, but my planner looks like this. Okay. I write everything down in pen because one thing I want to see is like, what was the intention? What didn't happen? And when things don't happen, I have to cross it out and I have to look at like why. So I'll make a note in there. The best thing about this is that if it's electronic, like if it's my Google Calendar and I have to rearrange it and wipe it out, there's no trace, right? There's a trace in here, whether things got rescheduled or moved around somewhere else, or I can kind of spot like, oh, wow, that's happening all the time here, or let me shift this around. And if I'm on the call or talking to somebody else, I don't have to break my focus to kind of say, hey, wait a minute, let me look at my phone, find that schedule. So it's right here, right in front of me. Also, I don't have to be tied to the internet in order for me to look at this, which is a distraction because you're going to get another notification about something. And I'd rather take that assessment morning and do that where I'm not plugged in. So I think we have time for Q&A and other things, right, Linda?
Yes. First of all, oh my God, that was fantastic. I love it. And I'm not sure yet, you might actually have sold me on having a paper calendar. I've been on a digital calendar since computers, not that long, but about 20 years. I rely on my digital calendar. And so, what I like about it is I can move things and there's no trace, like you said. And so hearing you speak, though, I hear the importance and the value of being able to see that. So thank you for sharing that. I got a lot out of this. I think it was fantastic. We have time for one question. It's 11:11. Everybody make a wish. Well, in San Diego, it's 11:11. Make a wish. Marilyn, you shared a lot of great programs. So first question I have for you is, do you have affiliate links to those programs you mentioned? MindMeister, Basecamp, there were some other ones you mentioned. If you have affiliate links to those, please drop those affiliate links in the chat so that they can get that through that. And you can make a little bit of money for them using programs that you already mentioned. And your dream, direction, relinquish, efficiency, action, and momentum. That is brilliant. I love that. And I love the way you broke it down into the process. I want you to talk about, because you like processes.
Yes.
Many people don't. I'm one of those, I love it once it's set up, but I don't want to set it up. So my question here, I wrote down the question is, what's the first step for somebody who doesn't really like setting up a process? What's the first step for them to take to move into that creation of the process?
A process really to me is any solid practice. So a practice means practicing, because in order for you to adopt a process, you should feel good about it. So practicing it first, going through different iterations of that is good. And sometimes you can adapt yourself to a tool, or sometimes you need a tool to adapt to you. So you really got to consider, is what I'm doing just super complex that these tools actually wouldn't work for me? Or am I a coach and I do a lot of similar things that other coaches do? Then maybe you need to look at tools that most people would have a consensus about. So asking people, taking a poll, previewing things. Don't be afraid to get free trials, or, things like that to really help you. You have to just kind of say, this is going to be the next 2 weeks. I'm going to test something. My solution that I'm looking for is this. Put it out there. Like I mentioned, when I first met virtually, she was testing processes. And so testing leads to discovery, which then can be adaptation or adoption for most of us.
You have a group, it's a free group, right, on Facebook? Yeah, so go ahead and drop that, because she does a lot of, she mentioned that when she finds something she likes, she does a video and she trains on how to do it. So it's a great way for you to find different systems that she's using, that she's found that works, and then she's sharing them. I'm more like, oh, I found this really cool thing. Let me go try it out I'll go try it out live. Let's see if we can figure out together how to make this happen. So I don't know that it's really the greatest thing to use, but Marilyn, she's already checked them out. So definitely you want to join her Facebook group over there for that. And then at what point do you decide to create a process? Because you're doing something, and you're not really sure exactly where you're going with it yet. Then it's kind of starts to morph into this thing that seems to work really well. And then, you're finding yourself doing that process, and you might still have some holes in it. But at one point, do you decide, I think that this is really a process that I want to really hone in on, because creating processes will save you a ton of time. That's for sure. So at what point do you decide?
Well, I feel like a lot of people are improvers. And you kind of have to say, what is that muscle I'm going to rely on now? Because you can go back to memory and start doing things that way instead of always trying to make it up as you go. That's the first route, because when you have it and you start and you can eventually delegate it, then you actually have a process. So where you say, where do I start? Well, actually, see if you can move towards what I mentioned before, putting it down somewhere, looking at it, and then maybe questioning, hey, do you understand what I wrote? You're asking somebody who you trust and say, could you look at this and tell me, does this make sense to you? Because we get stuck when it doesn't make sense to ourselves. Some people will take notes all day long, but when they go back and review their own notes, they go, I don't even know what I wrote down. Okay, so right? So we were busy at that time. I'm taking all these notes, but then I never really understood it. So don't be afraid to not get it that one time, right? Sometimes it takes a while. I have to reread books. I don't even know how many times I reread Think and Grow Rich or listened to it. And I'm always picking up something new from that. So exposing yourself to systems, making sure that you're just kind of in it for the game. Because if you're always terrified, or you're always telling yourself that I'm no good at technology, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I listen to a lot of people and they're like, okay, I'm listening to you, but then they'll have the but I don't like this stuff, or but I'm so intimidated by Facebook, but I don't understand social media. It's then you're really not listening, and you're really not playing. And if you can't play, you can't do.
Oh, if you can't play, you can't do. I love that. Yeah, it's so true, because if we allow those fears to stop us from trying things, and maybe the fear is the fear of perfection. Misty talked about perfection earlier. Maybe it's that fear of people seeing that you did something weird or wrong. I remember, I'm going to share I was doing this video challenge, and by this time I had already done over 1,000 videos. I've done like over 5,000 videos now. So by this time I had already done 1,000 videos, but I still wanted to learn from the experts because, I don't know everything. And so I took this video challenge. It was a paid course and everything. And the very first thing that the guy had everybody do is to mess up. I want you to go live and intentionally mess up. And it was really a brilliant move because it got rid of that fear. And the thing he had us do is to do karaoke, but do karaoke really bad.
Oh,
Yeah. So it was fun because here we were doing this, karaoke really bad live. So here we were intentionally messing up. So what can you do any worse than that?
That's right.
So you've already done the worst.
And it's actually a good marketing thing right now. Actually, this is great that you mentioned this, is that there's a big backlash in things that look too perfect now. People want authenticity. And so they actually appreciate if you're not well put together. Check out Drew Barrymore on TikTok. Okay. So she is just out there wearing sweatpants. Some once in a while, her hair is like, like she's just being crazy. People love it. And now there's that backlash and things that are being too perfect because people are going, well, that's something's not quite right. Is that all filters, is that all smoke and mirrors? They're not as willing anymore. People want just the real thing.
That's good. I love it. Yeah, that's great advice. I'm not on TikTok. Well, I'm there, but I'm not on it. Like everybody's like, you got to get on TikTok. Okay, well, I'm on there, but I'm not doing anything. So that's, another distraction. Right. So that's what it's very interesting. There's so many distractions out there for us to decide.
Another place to practice. Okay. So
that's great.
One thing I will suggest is that TikTok's algorithms are not that crazy. Not like Facebook. What you have to do is boil it down to whatever essence you have. If you're funny, if you like to eat, whatever it is. Okay. Boil it to the essence. You have to practice. And what you want to do is do 15-second videos where you just kind of do it and it's the same framing, it's the same thing all the time. They want sameness from your own feed. So if you want to crack an algorithm there, that one's actually pretty easy. But we overthink it because it's not an overthinker's app. Okay. It's meant for you to just go, hey, I'm here and I dance. Okay, enough. Okay, to now, hey, I'm here and I'm dancing again. Great. The algorithm goes, okay, we understand you. Here you go. Then when they pump you out. So if you actually have interesting things and you're always trying to vary it, that doesn't work on TikTok actually. So.
Oh, that's fascinating. That is so great. So with my publishing, just do 15-second snippets about like publishing, about writing, about getting your story out there and just have it all be about the one topic.
Yeah. Or say, hey, chapter 5 in this book is this. You're going to love it. Do. Okay, bye. And that's it. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. That's it.
Oh, that's so much less stressful, I think, than all the other ones.
Because it's not an overthinker's app.
Okay. I'm going to put that back down on my list to look into.
Only allowed 15 seconds. Okay. That's my challenge to y'all. If you want to try TikTok, I just want you to do the 15-second thing and use the native TikTok to make it. Don't even get complicated. Just try your face. Your face is an algorithm. Try it.
Would you say your face is an algorithm?
Your face is an algorithm.
Okay.
And you all see this on Facebook. If your face shows up in a post, you're going to get more hits and likes and comments on that. So your face is an algorithm.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I see Sally put in the chat, remove one thing from your list and add 3. Yeah, that was something I said. It was like, you get one thing done and then you just add 3 more to it. But still, it's all good. 15 seconds. I don't know. Sally might keep me in check and not do that for right now. But with that said, right, the indecision. So right now I'm on that waffling. I'm undecided right now. I was decided, no TikTok. Now I'm hearing something new. And I'm like, okay, let me put it back into the decision-making process. And then what am I going to do with it? And then am I going to come to completion? My completion might just be deciding not to do it. The completion might be deciding to do it and then actually doing it.
Yeah, because if you get any new piece of information, that changes the game. So don't judge yourself for waffling. You're allowed, because if there's a new piece of information that has entered your perspective, it must be honored. That's my thought.
So good. I agree with that. Well, I was in a clubhouse room and they were talking about reels, and everybody, they said a challenge like, okay, I want everybody to go do a reel right now. And so I did one. That reel got like 2,800 views really fast. And I have never, ever gotten that many views. Well, on only one Facebook video have I ever gotten any more than like 3,000 views. So instantly I got that on that one. And it's not about the views. It's about me doing the action and trying something new. And so now most of my videos, my reels over there on Instagram have over 1,000 views, which, I'm ecstatic about that because it's fun. It's fun to see that I'm being seen, and that's really important in our business. And that's what, Action Takers Publishing, right? It's about getting your message out there for you to be seen and be heard so that you can, do whatever it is you want to do with that. Some people, it's about growing their business, and other people, it's not about growing their business. So, but with that said, oh my gosh, Marilyn, this is fabulous. We've run a little bit over time, and I truly appreciate you coming here. And remember, if you have any of those affiliate links, please drop them in the chat there so people can check them out. And then maybe like with the name of the company or whatever it is, put what it does. So, because you mentioned Basecamp, put what it does so we know why we should check it out. Marilen Crump, it's an honor and pleasure to have you. And looking forward to seeing you in future books doing together, and also, just future collaborations.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate you.
Thank you.